Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back. Our guest today is John Rubino. He is the founder and editor behind rubino.substack.com. He has over 20,000 subscribers, and we are super grateful to have you down. Welcome, John.
Hey, Ivan, good to talk to you again.
Yeah, it's great having you back on. I want to get you on to talk about everything that's happening in the economy, the tariffs, silver, gold. First, though, let's start off with, there's so much financial uncertainty right now, John, surrounding the tariffs between US and China. What is your whole take on that?
Well, I think the trade war thing is playing a big role in all the chaos in other markets that we're seeing right now because nobody knows what to think. One minute they're the Smoot-Hawley tariffs from the 1930s, and they're bringing on the next Great Depression. The next minute, Trump has extended them for 60 days before they go into effect, and then the market is there's an awful lot happening out there in the short-term market movements that have nothing to do with macroeconomics and everything to do with people making decisions under
Right.
pressure that nobody sees coming. So you kind of have to look past that stuff. Like, for instance, I had a bunch of put options on the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 as insurance.
Uh-huh.
And I got taken out of those right away on that one of those big crashes that we had, and then
Oh,
the market went
geez.
back up and I felt smart. And now it's going back down again today. And I wish I still had those put options, but you cannot let short-term fluctuations dictate your mental state. The longer term stuff is all still in place. So I think it's a lot psychologically more healthy to look at for instance, what's going on with gold. Everything else is crashing or at least gyrating, and gold is steadily going up.
Yeah,
Even on
absolutely.
days like today, gold was up, what, $90 an ounce on a day when the NASDAQ was down 500 points. And so that's crazy, except when you think that, gold should be doing this, given all the stuff that's happening in the world. So that's just normal progression. The Basel III thing doesn't get much press, but they named gold a tier one asset, which means it's on a par with dollars and treasury bonds
Right.
on bank balance sheets, which makes gold much more useful than it used to be for banks and central banks. And so they're buying it steadily, day after day, without being price sensitive. And that's part of what's happening right now. Is I just posted a Substack that posted an article from somebody who went on Twitter with the thesis that gold is now becoming monetary infrastructure. In other words, it's just a built-in part of the system that makes the system work, because it's this asset that everybody has to own and that makes everything else easier in the financial sphere. So people are buying gold. That's why it's going up, because we're having this structural shift in the global financial system. And it's nowhere near done yet. I mean, if you think of all the banks that have to diversify their tier one assets who haven't done it yet, which means they have to buy gold.
Right.
And then the central banks that need gold for the monetary reset that's coming. It's not a surprise when viewed that way that gold is $3,400 an ounce, and that it might be $5,000 an ounce just in the normal course of things in the next 6 months or whatever. So, wow.
How does it look, for the average guy in the street facing this ultimate debt bubble that we're currently in?
Well, it's terrifying for regular people because debt bubbles, when they burst, lead to chaos. Financial markets go crazy, and housing does things that you never would have expected when they would do when you bought your house. And interest rates either go way up or way down, and you can't tell which ahead of time that they're going to do. And so for the average person who's exposed to all this stuff, it's terrifying and
Right.
brutal. Like if you've got a 60-40 portfolio for your retirement, you're 69 years old, and you really can't afford a lot of volatility in your assets because you're going to need them in the next 10 years. And interest rates spike, which tanks your bond portfolio. And then the stock market tanks because of higher interest rates, which tanks your stock portfolio. And your 60-40 portfolio goes down across the board by 70%. And you don't get to retire anymore. That's the kind of thing that happens in markets that are probably coming. The specifics might be a little different, but the gist for a lot of people is going to be like that, where the world just goes crazy and it hurts you. And you can't do the things you thought you were going to be able to do back when you thought you were this rich, and now you're only this rich, and then forget about pensions and stuff like that. There's a whole country full of public sector employees who think they have excellent pensions going forward, but those pensions are loaded up on private equity, hedge funds, government bonds, which they think is the safe part of their portfolio, and
Right.
tech stocks, so they're going to get crushed when the time comes.
There's about $15 trillion worth of physical gold in the world sitting there costing money rather than being used is just absolutely insane. Monetary Metals is bringing gold back into the financial world, putting gold to productive use right now. The problem with gold, of course, in physical form is that it's heavy, it's cumbersome, it's not particularly easy to ship, and it costs money to store in a protected manner. This platform Monetary Metals created is a proven concept and allows gold to be put to productive use, so that instead of sitting there costing you money, it's actually in use earning you money.
Learn how you can earn 2 to 5% in our leasing program and how accredited investors can earn up to 12% on silver paid in silver. This advertisement is not investment or financial advice. Minimum investment applies.
Yeah, and a lot of people just looking at Canada where I live, in Ontario, there's a lot of the military, Canadian military, there's large segments of them where they're just living in they're living off of food stamps off the government because they're not getting paid enough. The currency's being debased so much, cost of living is going up. So they're literally on food stamps. So, how does that work out in the next 10, 15 years when you look at, countries like Canada or so on, and you have their own military living off food stamps?
I never thought I would really say this, but as bad as I just badmouthed the United States, we're actually in better shape than Europe and Canada. We are a
Yeah.
better run country than Canada, which is usually that's pretty surprising. And in Germany, we're a better run country than Germany right now.
Right.
And that's shocking. Germany used to be the best run country in the world, an industrial powerhouse where there was labor peace and everybody made good money and everybody obeyed the rules because the rules were clear and understandable. All that's gone for Germany. Canada, you guys per capita are probably the richest people in the world because
With resources and like natural
yes,
resources. Yeah.
you have more oil, gas, coal, gold, silver, and a bunch of other things per capita
And the
than
highest, the
anybody else in the
highest,
world.
the highest taxed in the world too. It's
I
just good.
can't explain it. You guys should be just living off the royalties on your natural resources and not paying any taxes at all. You should be like Alaska, where at the
Yeah.
end of the year, instead of telling you to pay tax, they hand you some money from their oil fund, and so you get this little $2,000 or $3,000 year-end bonus. You guys should be living that way, but on a vast scale, for all the stuff that you produce. But you screwed it up.
Yeah.
And do you think the same government is going to be put in place in the next election? Because that would be downright weird.
Hello, my fellow silver and gold stacker. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching the channel. Subscribe, please like the video, and also hit the notification bell. Keep stacking. Well, the media is doing the same thing like they did when before Trump's election in 2024. They're saying, oh, Biden's gonna win, Biden's in the lead, and then they're doing the same thing now with the liberals. They're saying liberals are in the lead right now, but I don't know one person. Like I've talked to thousands of people, and not one person said they're going liberal. They're all mostly conservative. So I don't know where these numbers are coming from on the media.
Well, are you sure you're just not in a gold bug bubble where everybody you talk to is a libertarian, like
That
you and
could
I?
be it. That
Yeah,
could be it.
because the polls, like you said, the polls say a liberal landslide.
Right.
And after all those years of screwing up, where you had a government that just got everything wrong,
It makes no sense.
it does make no sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
and but you know, countries that are really badly managed wake up at different times. It doesn't normally always happen all at once.
Right.
And maybe Canada's time is the next election or the one after this next election instead of this one. But that would be a shame for you guys because
It would be a shame.
what, 4 more years or 5 more years or whatever of liberal governance. The US, we were one presidential term away from the end of the American system as we know it. Our
Yeah.
borders were wide open. We were blundering into World War III with Russia. We were censoring constitutionally protected speech. We were running a dementia patient for press. It goes on and on about the
Oh
things.
yeah, it was insane. It was
Yeah,
literally like you're living in a movie.
yeah. But we dodged that bullet by one election.
Wow.
One more election, and it would have all been done. Because just the border thing. Because basically, what was happening was we were shipping in tens of millions of people who were going to vote Democrat, and a lot of them were being dumped in swing states. So 4 more years of that, and we would have been a one-party country where the Democrats won every election, and they would have just left the borders open. That would
What
have been the
and
end of
what
it.
happens for the next election too? Like Trump can't run for more than 8 years in presidency. Like they only can serve 2 terms, right? So what happens next? Like what
Well,
happens if the Democrats win next?
two things about that. Trump is a troll. He loves to tease the other side, and so he's keeping that third term thing in his pocket. He's already pulled it out a couple of times.
Oh,
Where
really?
if it looks like public opinion is moving against the Republicans, or the Democrats have an issue that they can really get some traction with, Trump just comes out and says, "Yeah, I think I'm going to run for a third term," and then boom, that dominates the news cycle, and so the Democrats don't have any
Is he
talking points
allowed
except,
though?
no. But
No.
he and some of his people say they've got a plan, that there is a way,
Wow.
and but
Wow.
I mean it's the thing, and the same thing with buying Greenland. They pull that out when they need to dominate a news cycle,
Right.
and they've got all kinds of things like that because Trump can say things that nobody else in their right mind would say and own the news cycle. But how did we get here? There was something else that I was supposed to answer, I think, before that.
The average guy in the street.
Yeah. Oh, you mean what's it like for the average? No, it
Yeah,
was
what's
something.
it?
It was something. It was something after that. But yeah, it's tough for the average guy. But
Yeah, the debt debasement, the debt bubble.
hey, if we just have a few more minutes, let's
Yeah.
talk about what's going to happen with the mining stocks
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because
Let's talk about it
where
right now.
where gold is right now is insanely profitable for the big miners. Right? They were profitable at $2,000 an ounce US.
Right, right.
Now it's twice that. So they're gonna in the fourth quarter they put up pretty good numbers thanks to gold going up. Then gold went up more in the first quarter. So the next set of numbers that come out are going to be even better for the miners. And gold has kept going up since the end of the first quarter. So their second quarter numbers are liable to be even better sequentially than their blowout first quarter numbers. So at some point the miners have to be discovered by generalist money, right? Because they're going
Yeah.
to show up on every earnings momentum chart and radar screen that's out there, and that generalist money is so immense compared to the size of the precious metals mining sector that this could. And the big miners that are raking in the really serious cash will
Right.
start doing stuff with that cash. So there's going to be a lot of headline news of Newmont buying some other big miner, creating the biggest gold miner that's ever been conceived of, stuff like that, or raising their dividend dramatically, or buying back insane amounts of stock, because all that cash flow makes stuff like that possible.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be a really interesting stretch for the gold and silver miners if gold and silver hold their current prices. Well, gold needs to hold its price and silver needs to go up because the gold silver ratio is ridiculous. Silver is too cheap relative to gold.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a crazy time in the mining space. I can already tell just by looking at how undervalued it is right now, and a lot of people have been saying the same thing. But John, before you go, I really want people to connect with you. I want them to go to your Substack. It's rabino.substack.com. I'll put it in the in the description below. Where else can people connect with you? Do you have a Twitter?
That's it.
That's it.
Substack is the only place where I have any kind of a voice, and,
Oh,
and
that's
doing
good.
shows like yours. But yeah, on Substack. I have a newsletter that's basically aimed at actionable advice for the stuff we just talked about. In other words, how do you navigate a world that is this financially crazy.
Yeah.
And how do you manage not just your investments, but manage your life? Because there's a lot of things that maybe you should be doing as far as your skill set or your job or your connection to your community. There's a lot of things that we should probably all be doing. And a lot of it falls under the heading of prepping.
Yeah.
And so be a gold bug and then be a prepper, and that's my general advice, and then I work on specifics from there.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, John, for joining us. I want everyone watching, please go connect with John at rabino.substack.com. Link is in the description below. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and John would love to have you back on in the future.
Thanks, Ivan. Look forward to it.
Talk to you soon.